Now, to everyone's surprise, the ship didn't come to a stop over Manhattan or Washington or Chicago, but instead coasted to a halt directly over the city of Johannesburg. The doors didn't open for 3 months. It just hovered there. Nobody could get in. And they eventually decided, after much deliberation, that the best thing to do would be to physically cut their way in.
We were on the verge of first contact. The whole world was watching. Expecting, I don't know, music from heaven and bright shining lights.
There's a lot of moisture in here. Good, just go slowly. Oh my god.
Okay, I only have 6 minutes. So many questions. So. Okay, first off, I'm going to ask you guys a question I've never asked anybody before. I want to talk about the character names because they're very unique and different. Can you explain how you came up with the character names?
Well, I think the name... I think every character in the film, I jotted down the names that I wanted because, I wanted it to have a real South African feeling. I think the only one I didn't come up with was Vickers, which Sharlto came up. Yeah, with Sharlto, when we filmed some test footage in Johannesburg, which is really when I figured out that he should be the lead character. He was using the name Vickers, talking about a different character, actually.
It was talking about a friend of mine. That actually came from my girlfriend who's Afrikaans.
So you have a buddy with that name?
No, my girlfriend just said, that's an interesting Afrikaans name.
Yeah.
So I mentioned this character as if he was my friend who'd been killed, I think it was, by a creature. It was just a funny first name, and then you cotton on to that.
Yeah, so he was naming his own character and he didn't realize it. So I took Vickers because I thought that was an interesting Afrikaans name. And then Van der Merwe, which is his last name in the movie, is an incredibly South African surname.
It's like Smith,
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's like a mundane surname, sort of.
Okay. Yeah, because like I said with Gordon, and right I walked out, I was like, I'm going to ask him about the character names. First thing he said, he was like, dude, you've got to ask about the character names. Okay,
interesting.
So,
I've never heard that before. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, now let's talk about the prawns. How did you come up with the alien design, and why did you go with the prawn idea?
Well, you mean the word prawn?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's like the shrimp,
because there's two things. There's like one half of the whole discussion is the way that they visually look and how they were designed. And they were designed to mimic this kind of ant-hive, beehive kind of construct that's lost their queen, and so all of these termite drones are goalless. And the design actually looked very different. And then one day I figured out that, and it never felt right, and I knew I had to change it at some point. I figured out that based on what they are in the movie, which is like a hive, they really should be represented as insects.
Yeah.
So then I went down the road of designing them to look like an insect. And then separate from that, because I was trying to draw as many elements from South African society as possible, there's all the derogatory racial names from every different race group, and so I wanted to have a derogatory name for the aliens because that's exactly what would happen in South Africa. And so prawn, I don't even know how prawn came about, but it did. Yeah. And I thought it was funny that it was like, they aren't actually prawns, they're insects. They're not crustaceous marine animals.
So it's like the humans couldn't even get that right, which I thought was sort of funny. But yeah, so that's where they come from.
And it's all CGI. Every prawn was CGI.
Yeah, they were completely CGI all the time. But we did originally shoot some test footage. No, actually, sorry. We originally shot some footage that had prosthetic suits that we were going to do facial, digital faces with prosthetic suits, and it just wasn't cutting it, so now they're all digital.
Cool, yeah, and when I talked to both of y'all at Comic-Con, y'all both said one of your favorite sci-fi films was Aliens. And I could definitely see the Alien films being like an influence on District 9. Were there any other sci-fi films that influenced you while you were making this film, both of you?
Well, for me, the way I think of it is that there's no one science fiction film that I said consciously this is going to be a homage to this film, or that I'm going to let this film influence me while I'm making District 9. It's more that I very consciously wanted all of the science fiction stuff I have in my head to sort of be congealed into one thing and dropped into South Africa. Yeah. So I think that you can find links to many famous sci-fi films,
Yeah, I didn't. I was really focused on the character and was really, you know, once the film got going, it was very much just about almost trying to just channel this guy into these situations and explore him as he went.
The thing that's interesting about, you know, like talking about inspiration for the movie, because people always ask me about science fiction and which films influence it and stuff, and what Charles just said about you know using because really what he's doing is he's making a real South African character be believable because he goes through this transformation. So as far as Charles,
from influences in my life,
exactly,
yeah.
And they're all real. It's all purely real.
Almost, yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do from a directing perspective as well. That the science fiction isn't revolutionary at all. It's mundane science fiction. As aliens arrive on Earth, we've seen it so many times. You know, I even wanted the technology to look like kind of familiar.
Yeah.
So the inspiration is from reality. It's like what he did with his character, I did with the movie, which is like just take as many cues from South Africa as I could and switch some of them out with sci-fi.
Yeah. Yeah, what I love about the film is like it's a different alien film because like the aliens are like the good guys, and you know most alien films are always like the bad guys. And everyone's like scared of them and stuff like that. But I got about a minute left, so for my last question, the film ends where it kind of left off with like a sequel. So my question is, do you plan on making a sequel? And if you do, can you discuss any ideas you have or any direction you want to go?
Well, the whole notion of sequels only come up recently, since Comic-Con, really. I would love to go back to the world of District 9 if the movie is successful, because I've had a really good time making it, and I love the creative world that it involves. And I know Charles would also want to go back there, but we didn't write it thinking of a sequel. And I know the backstory of the aliens, and I know more about the history of the movie than I do about the future of you know where it would go. But in terms of discussing ideas, I think that a lot of the film has to do with the way that you perceive the film is that it's not a spike on a curve. It's not their arrival or them returning. Yeah. It's the mundane every day in between those spikes that make it interesting for me, and that's what I like about his character. And I think if you go forward, you have something that's more conventional, whereas if you go backwards, you have something that I like the mundaneness about it, the everydayness about it. Yeah. So I don't know where it would go. Where do you want to go?
Hey man, wherever he goes, I'll go. It was an incredible experience, and I think it's a very interesting character. And
we need to find out where Pete wants to go.
Yeah, I guess we should. Should we call him? Yeah. Should we call him now?
Go on the phone.
Yeah.
See what he thinks.
Yeah.
Breaking news. The whole world is watching. The course of human history has changed today.
The ship appears to be stopping over Johannesburg City.
They're spending so much money to keep them here when they could be spending it on other things. At least they're keeping them separate from us.
How do your weapons work?
We're coming to you from the entrance of District 9, the refugee camp set up to separate aliens from the general population.
They told me I was going to get a vest.
Don't worry about the vest, it'll be fine. Any new agents, open the door, please.
This is an amazing fight.
I haven't seen this type of setup. I don't know, this has got the markings there of, so it's definitely alien, but it's not a weapon.
We're seeing heavily armed forces being deployed into District 9.
Nobody really knew what this place was.
Find that freak. It's going to be quick. It's going to be clean. Best of all, it's going to be quiet.
There's a lot of secrets in District 9.